cannot go on.
You must, my dear, be strong.
The bells of St. Alaric rang slow and heavy, like they were warning her to turn back while she still could. Clara Wren walked down the long stone aisle, her hands shaking beneath white gloves, her veil trembling with every step. The sound followed her, echoing through the great cathedral and deep into her chest, where fear already lived. Every eye was on her. Some held pity, others held cruel curiosity. No one looked away. She was only 20, too young to be standing here, too young to be traded like a debt paid in silken vows. Whispers drifted through the pews like cold air. Poor child, sold before she ever lived. Clara kept her head high. She would not cry in front of them. She would not give them the pleasure. The cathedral felt cold despite the candles. Blue light from stained glass washed over the floor, making everything look distant and unreal. Outside, thick November fog pressed against the windows, hiding the world beyond, as if even the sky did not wish to watch this wedding. The white roses in her bouquet drooped in her grip, petals loosening and falling like quiet goodbyes to the dreams she once held. This was not a marriage of love. Everyone knew it. Her father's debts had written this day into her life with cruel clarity. After his disgrace and death, Clara had become a burden, a problem to be solved. And so she was given away. At the altar stood the Duke of Alderaan Vale, Lucien Harrow, tall, still, wrapped in black like a man carved from stone. Silver streaked his hair, and his storm-blue eyes held no warmth, only calm restraint. He was 47, a legend in society, powerful, wealthy, alone. They whispered that he had buried love long ago. When he turned to face her, Clara felt the weight of him, not his body, but his history. His gaze did not burn or judge. It simply rested on her, steady and unreadable, like a door already closed. His shoulders were broad, his posture perfect. He looked every inch the Duke people feared and respected. Earlier that morning, her stepmother had adjusted her veil with sharp fingers and sharper words. Be grateful. A girl without dowry has no right to dreams. Clara remembered swallowing the pain, letting it sink where it would not show. Gratitude, they called it. Survival felt more honest. She spoke her vows with lips that barely obeyed her. The words tasted like surrender. When the Duke answered, his voice was deep and controlled, like distant thunder across empty land. No passion lived there, only duty. The ring slid onto her finger, cold, heavy, old. It felt less like a promise and more like a chain. Generations of duchesses had worn it before her. Clara wondered how many had smiled, and how many had felt as trapped as she did now. There was no kiss when the ceremony ended. The Duke bowed instead, formal and distant. The priest declared them bound. The book recorded her new name, and just like that, Clara Wren disappeared. In her place stood the Duchess of Alderaan Vale. The carriage ride passed in silence. Fog followed them through the city and out into the countryside. Clara stared at her gloved hands, her heart pounding with questions she dared not ask. Beside her the Duke sat rigid, his signet ring catching lantern light. The space between them felt too close and impossibly far all at once. At last he spoke. You need not fear me. His voice was softer than she expected. Clara did not answer. Fear was all she knew. Alderaan Hall rose from the dark like something ancient and watchful. Towers, stone, windows, glowing faintly. The carriage stopped, gravel crunching beneath the wheels with final certainty. Servants lined the entrance, eyes curious but faces controlled. Portraits of long dead duchesses watched her pass, their painted eyes calm and resigned. Inside, the manor was vast and cold despite the fires. Marble, shadow, silence. A clock chimed somewhere deep within, each note making Clara feel smaller. You may rest tonight, the Duke said evenly. No demands will be made of you. He gestured to the housekeeper and withdrew, his footsteps fading into the depths of the house. Her bridal chamber was beautiful and terrifying. A large bed, golden walls, a mirror that showed her pale face, staring back like a stranger. She removed the pins from her hair one by one, each falling like a quiet tear. Hours passed. Candles burned low, the house whispered around her. Then came a soft knock. Her heart raced. This was it, the moment she had feared since the bells began to ring. "Enter," she said, her voice steadier than her hands. The Duke stepped inside, calm and distant. He did not approach the bed. Instead, he placed a small velvet box on the table. "Your first wedding gift," he said quietly. He bowed once and left, closing the door behind him. Clara stood frozen, staring at the box. Relief and confusion twisted together inside her. Her fingers trembled as she reached for it, unaware that everything she believed about her fate was about to change. Clara did not open the velvet box at once. She stood beside the table for a long moment, listening to her own breathing. To the distant, settling sounds of Alderaan Hall, the house seemed to wait with her, as if it too wished to know what the Duke had left behind. At last, she lifted the lid. Inside lay a silver key and a folded note sealed with dark wax. No jewels, no command, just the quiet weight of something unfamiliar. Choice. Her hands shook as she broke the seal and unfolded the paper. "This key unlocks your chamber. You are free to close your door or open mine. The choice shall always be yours. No one should be forced to love." The words were written in a careful, steady hand, not rushed, not cold. Each letter felt deliberate, like a promise meant to be kept. Clara sank into the chair by the window, the note pressed to her chest. Tears came then, hot and sudden, not from fear, but from shock. In a world that had traded her like a coin, this man had offered her freedom. Morning light found her still awake, the box open in her lap. Outside, mist lifted slowly from the gardens. A bird sang somewhere near the hedges, its song clear and lonely. The key lay warm in her palm now, no longer foreign. Breakfast arrived quietly. A single white camellia rested beside the tray. The maid's eyes flicked to Clara's face in the mirror, curious but respectful. No one asked questions. "His Grace dines alone in the mornings," Mrs. Winters said calmly, "but he hopes you will join him for tea later, should you wish." "Should you wish." The words followed Clara as she explored the manor that day. She walked through long galleries lined with tapestries and portraits. She traced fingers along bookshelves thick with dust. This house was not cruel. It was lonely. In the music room, she lifted the cover of a grand piano and pressed a single key. The sound echoed, clean and honest. She almost laughed at how alive it felt. Tea in the south garden became a quiet habit. The Duke arrived precisely at 4, his manner polite and reserved. He spoke little, but when he listened, he truly listened. His eyes followed her words with attention that unsettled her more than coldness ever could. "The library is remarkable," she said one afternoon. "I found astronomical charts." He nodded. "The stars are constant when people are not." She noticed then the pressed flowers tucked into a book of poetry. Her surprise showed. "My mother's," he said after a pause. "She believed beauty should be saved." That small truth changed something between them. Days passed, then weeks. The Duke never crossed her door uninvited. Books appeared on her table, music sheets left by the piano, notes written in the same careful hand. "The conservatory orchids bloom today. You may enjoy them." Slowly, Alderaan Hall warmed. One evening she found him in the stables, coat off, sleeves rolled, calming a restless mare. His voice was low and steady. The animal trusted him. Clara watched without being seen, and felt something settle in her chest. Another night, she discovered sketches in a leather portfolio. Birds, gardens, hands holding books. His hands. The care in the lines spoke of patience, not power. The house was changing, or perhaps she was. Then came the storm. Thunder rolled over the moors, rain striking the windows like restless thoughts. Clara walked to the library, drawn by the firelight. The Duke stood there alone, his back to her, a glass untouched in his hand. "You freed me," she said softly. He turned, startled. For the first time, his composure cracked. "My chains were forged long before you," he replied quietly. "Then let me share their weight." The words surprised them both. They stood close, firelight casting gold across their faces. No demands, no titles. Just two people standing at the edge of something unknown. "I never meant to trap you," he confessed. "I accepted because I could spare you worse." "And what of you?" she asked. "Do you choose solitude?" Silence answered first, then truth. "I learned to live without hope." Clara reached into her pocket and drew out the silver key. It gleamed between them. "You gave me freedom," she said. "Now I choose." He took the key and placed it on the mantel. No more locks. When he kissed her hand, it was gentle and reverent. Not ownership, gratitude. The storm softened. The fire burned low, and for the first time, Alderaan Hall did not feel like a place of endings, but of beginnings, waiting to be named. Morning arrived softly at Alderaan Hall, as if the house itself had learned a new way to breathe. Pale light slipped through the tall windows, touching stone and wood that had known too many silent years. Clara woke without fear for the first time since her wedding day. The Duke did not claim the night. He did not cross a boundary she had not opened. Instead, he honored the choice she had given, and in doing so, deepened it. Days turned into seasons, and something steady grew between them, not rushed, not demanded, built slowly, like trust learning how to stand on its own. Clara filled the halls with music, at first softly, unsure, then with confidence. The piano sang again, its notes carrying through rooms long used only for echoes. Sometimes she felt his presence near the doorway, listening. He never interrupted, he never praised, but she felt seen. The Duke changed as well. His steps grew lighter. His smiles, once rare, appeared without effort. Servants noticed. The housekeeper noticed. Alderaan Hall noticed. They walked together through the gardens in the evenings. She spoke of books and forgotten dreams. He spoke of stars and long nights spent charting them alone. Age faded where understanding grew. Society whispered, but the whispers changed. Pity turned to confusion, confusion to quiet respect. Those who visited expected sorrow and found warmth instead. In the third spring, Clara stood at the window holding a newborn child, a daughter, Eleanor. Named for the woman whose portrait had once whispered endurance from the walls. The Duke stood beside her, his hand trembling as he held the child, his eyes full in a way no title could explain. Laughter returned to the halls. The key that once rested in Clara's palm now hung in the library as a reminder, not a barrier, a symbol of freedom freely given and freely returned. Years later, Lady Errol visited again, her sharp eyes searching for cracks that were no longer there. She found none. Only a woman at peace and a man who had learned how to hope again. "You seem happy," she said, unable to hide her disbelief. "I am," Clara replied simply. That evening, as the sun sank over the moors, Clara rested her head against the Duke's shoulder. "I was given to a Duke far too old," she said quietly. He smiled, "and I was given a life I thought had already passed me by." They stood together, as stars appeared one by one, no longer distant markers of solitude, but shared wonders. Alderaan Hall glowed behind them, no longer a monument to duty, but a home shaped by choice. And in that quiet moment, they understood the truth neither had known before. Love did not begin with passion or youth or control.